The Tuskegee Study by Caitlin McBride. In 1928, the Oslo study of untreated syphilis had reported on the pathologic manifestations of untreated syphilis in several hundred white males. The U.S. Public Health Service syphilis study at Tuskegee Group decided to build on the Oslo work and perform an experiment to complement it. The researchers involved with the study reasoned that they were not harming the men involved in the study because under their assumption they were unlikely to ever receive treatment. At the time, it was believed that the effects of syphilis depended solely on the race of those affected. U.S. Public Health Service officials needed a location to conduct their study, and they found the perfect place in Macon County, Alabama. It was known as the Black Belt of the region, both because of the thick dark soil that made land so fertile for agriculture and because of the large population of black sharecroppers who made their living working the land. The region was very rural and most sharecroppers were not well educated. In Macon County, 227 out of every 1,000 African Americans could not read. Almost 40% of the black population of Tuskegee had syphilis by 1929, making it the city with the highest syphilis infection rate in the country. The Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis in African American men was a study conducted between 1932 and 1972 by the United States Public Health Service and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on a group of nearly 600 African Americans with syphilis. The purpose of the study was to observe the effects of the disease when left untreated. The Public Health Service started the study in 1932 in Alabama. The study enrolled a total of 600 impoverished African American men from Macon County, Alabama. Of these men, 399 had latent syphilis with a control group of 201 men who were not infected. As an incentive for participation in the study, the men were promised free medical care, which was an exceptionally tempting offer, particularly for an economically impoverished area. However, even the promise of free health care was not enough to entice some of the men to continue the treatments. So as the study went on, the subjects were offered more and more benefits, including extended medical treatment, free rides to appointments, hot meals on appointment days, medical exams, and even burial stipends. While the men were provided with both medical and mental care that they otherwise would not have received, they were deceived by the U.S. government, who never informed them of their syphilis diagnosis. These people were never informed of the risk of infecting others and the fact that the disease could lead to blindness, deafness, mental illness, heart disease, bone deterioration, the collapse of the central nervous system, and death. The government provided disguised placebos, ineffective methods, and diagnostic procedures as treatment for quote-unquote bad blood. This was the term that was used to describe various conditions such as syphilis, anemia, and fatigue. To ensure that the men would show up for the possibly dangerous, painful, diagnostic, and non-therapeutic spinal taps, doctors sent participants a misleading letter titled, "Last Chance for Special Free Treatment." At the time, many men were convinced they were being treated for this bad blood, but in reality they were nothing but human guinea pigs for the government to study. The men in the study were initially told that the experiment would only last 6 months, but it was extended to 40 years. After funding for treatment was lost, the study was continued without informing the men that they would never be treated. None of the infected men were treated with penicillin, despite the fact that by 1947 the antibiotic was widely available and had become the standard treatment for syphilis. The U.S. government sponsored several public health programs to inform rapid treatment centers to eradicate the disease. When campaigns to eradicate the disease came to Macon County, study researchers prevented their subjects from participating. Although some of the men in the study did receive penicillin treatments elsewhere, for most of them this did not amount to adequate therapy. Most participants remained in the dark of the study clinicians' true purpose, which was to observe the natural course of untreated syphilis. Study clinicians could have chosen to treat all syphilis subjects and close the study, or split off a control group for testing with penicillin. Instead, they continued the study without treating any participants. They withheld treatment and information about penicillin from the subjects. In addition, scientists prevented participants from accessing syphilis treatment programs available to other residents in the area. The researchers reasoned that the knowledge gained would benefit human mankind. However, it was determined afterwards that the doctors did harm their subjects by depriving them of appropriate treatment once it had been discovered. The study was characterized as the longest non-therapeutic experiment on human beings in medical history. The study continued under numerous public health service supervisors until 1972, when a leak got to the press, which resulted in its termination on November 16th of that year. By then, 28 patients had died directly from syphilis, 100 died from complications related to syphilis, 40 of the patients' wives were infected with syphilis, and 19 children were born with congenital syphilis. The study's surviving participants, represented by attorney Fred Gray, filed a class action lawsuit against the U.S. Public Health Service in the summer of 1973. The study's remaining subjects were awarded $9 million settlement. They were also granted lifetime medical benefits and burial services. In 1975, the benefits were extended to include not just the surviving subjects, but all participants' wives and children as well. In 1995, it was extended one final time to include health as well as medical benefits for all participants and their families. The Tuskegee Health Benefit Program was established to disperse the benefits according to the CDC. Congress also passed additional protections for human subjects, including National Research Act, which required the approval of institutional review boards for all experiments using human test subjects. The outcry following the Tuskegee syphilis experiment helped establish many of the modern medical ethical standards that are in place today. On May 16, 1997, President Bill Clinton formally apologized on behalf of the United States to the victims of the study, calling it shameful and racist. "What was done cannot be done, but we can end the silence," he said. "We can stop turning our heads away. We can look at you in the eye and finally say, on behalf of the American people, what the United States government did was shameful, and I am sorry." The 40-year Tuskegee study was a major violation of both ethical and legal standards. The participants of the study were not provided with informed consent. They were lied to about the true nature of the experiment. They were not informed that they had been diagnosed with syphilis, and they were lied to about the medical procedures performed on them. They were told that the experiment would only last 6 months, but instead it lasted 40 years. If the participants had been given the benefits of having full disclosure, it is possible that many of them would not have agreed to participate and would have ultimately left the experiment to receive appropriate treatment. Another ethical issue present in this study was coercion. The participants were coerced into participate in the study. They were pressured to agree to the terms of the study without being fully aware what they were agreeing to. They were promised free meals, health care, and burial costs, and they were taken advantage of because of their race and economic status. They saw the researchers, doctors, and nurses as trusted authority figures, and most likely believed that they could be trusted to provide adequate care. The third major ethical issue is when researchers withheld treatment of the syphilis, even after treatments became available for the purpose of the research. The welfare of the patients was consistently neglected. They were given dangerous spinal taps that they called spinal shots, which could have caused even more damage to their health. Instead of being told they were being treated for syphilis, they were told that they were being treated for bad blood, which could have included any illnesses from anemia to leukemia. Several other ethical issues in the study included the lack of accurate reporting and records, no known confidentiality maintained for the participants in the study, the dangers caused to the community due to untreated sexually transmitted diseases, exploitation and discrimination of the participants based on their race and socioeconomic status, overall negligence, and undue influence. The Tuskegee project has had a very profound effect on communities all over today. In the aftermath of the test, African American communities developed a mistrust of public health initiatives that still lingers today. As a result, Black men are less likely to seek health care and treatment than their white counterparts. According to the National Bureau of Economic Research, a study comparing older Black men to other demographic groups before and after the Tuskegee revelation in varying proximity to the study, victims found that the disclosure of the study in 1972 is correlated with increases in medical mistrust and mortality and decreases in both outpatient and inpatient physician interactions for older Black men. There are several things that the healthcare world can do to help minimize the risk of these things ever happening again. The first one is to track and incorporate the industry standards and regularly update the policy to meet the standards and address the risks. Take your policies online, train and test your employees on their understanding of the policies, keep detailed records of the policy distribution and sign-offs, and maintain policy consistency. This way, there will be no questions with your staff on what the policies are and how to use them. Below you will see the reference page, and thanks for watching.